In this Godot tutorial, I'll be showing you how to pick up weapons in your game. For this tutorial, I'm using a first-person character controller. Watch my video on first-person character controllers if you don't know how to make one. Right-click on the camera node, select Add Child, and add a raycast node as a child of the camera. I'm going to rename it to Reach. Make sure to enable the raycast and set its cast to 0 on the y-axis and something like -5 on the z-axis. This represents the furthest distance you can grab an object in the game world. Next, right-click on Head, add Child, and add an empty spatial node as a child of Head. Rename it to Hand. Move Hand forward a bit to where a hand might naturally be. Next, we need to create some guns. In a lot of FPS games, each gun has two separate models, a low-resolution version for the gun laying around in the game world, and a high-resolution model for the gun you hold in your hands. We're going to do this as well. Create a roughly gun-shaped object using a rigid body node, I assume you already know how to do this, and call it gun A. If you look in the script, I've got some code that throws the gun a bit forward when dropped. var dropped equals false, func_process delta, if dropped double equals true, apply impulse, transform.basis.z, minus transform.basis.z times 10, dropped equals false. This isn't strictly necessary, but it adds a little bit of extra realism to your game. Next, create the high resolution version of the gun using a simple mesh instance node. Call it gun AHR. In my case, I just made it the exact same color and size as my low res gun, but you can do whatever you want. Once that's done, repeat the same process with a second gun, creating both a low res and high res version. Call them gun B and gun BHR. Finally, return to the character controller scene, click on the hand node, click the chain link button at the top of the screen, and add either gun AHR or gun BHR as a child of it. Click on the camera node, click the preview button, click on the hand node again, and in the inspector on the right, adjust its transform until the gun is in a position that looks good to you. Once that's done, right-click on the gun node and delete it. Now you can start coding. In the script, the first thing we're going to do is create two variables, var weapon2spawn and var weapon2drop. This keeps track of which weapon we want to pick up and which to drop. Next, we're going to create a reference to our hand node and our reach raycast node by writing onReadyVarReach equals $head/camera/reach, as well as onReadyVarHand equals $head/hand. We also need to preload our guns so we can spawn them in and out on command by writing onReadyVarGunAHR equals preload and then the path for the gun scene, as well as onReadyVarGunA equals preload and again the path. Do the same thing for gun B. Next, we need to give the game a way to know which weapon we want to pick up. We'll do this by creating a process function if you don't already have one by writing func_process delta. Then we'll write if reach.isColliding, if reach.getCollider.getName double equals gun A, weapon2spawn equals gun AHR.instance. elif reach.getCollider.getName double equals gun B, weapon2spawn equals gun BHR.instance, else weapon2spawn equals null, else weapon2spawn equals null. So if our reach raycast is colliding with something, if the colliding object is called gun A, then the weapon we want to spawn in our hands will be gun AHR. If it collides with gun B instead, weapon2spawn will be gun BHR instead. If it collides with something other than a gun, weapon2spawn will be null, and if it collides with nothing at all, weapon2spawn will again be null. Once you have a gun in your hand, you also need to let the gun know to drop it if you pick up a different weapon. And so we'll write if hand.getChild0 does not equal null, if hand.getChild0.getName double equals gun AHR, weapon2drop equals gun A.instance. elif hand.getChild0.getName double equals gun BHR, weapon2drop equals gun B.instance, else weapon2drop equals null. So if hand has a child, as in if it's holding a gun, if that gun is called gun AHR, then the weapon we want to drop will be an instance of gun A. If instead the gun is gun BHR, then weapon2drop will be an instance of gun B. And if there is no gun in hand, weapon2drop is null. And finally, we need to give the character the ability to actually pick up the guns. Go to Project and Project Settings, and in the Input Map tab, make sure you have a key binding called Interact. If you don't, just type Interact in the action box at the top and click Add. I assign the E key to be the Interact key, but you can do whatever button you want. Return to the script and write if input.isActionJustPressed interact, if weapon2spawn does not equal null, if hand.getChild0 does not equal null, getParent.addChild weapon2drop, weapon to drop.globalTransform equals hand.globalTransform, weapon to drop.dropped equals true, hand.getChild0.queue_free, reach.getCollider.queueFree, hand.addChild weapon to spawn.rotation equals hand.rotation. So when we press the interact key to pick up a new gun, if weapon to spawn is not null and we already have a weapon in hand, we're going to spawn a copy of the gun in hand into the game world. We're going to have it copy the location and rotation of the hand node. We're going to set the gun's dropped variable to true, which activates the code that tosses it forward a bit, and we're going to delete the gun we have in our hand. If we don't have a gun in hand when picking up a new weapon, none of this will happen. Then we're going to delete the gun that our reach raycast is colliding with. We're going to add that new weapon as a child of our hand, and we're going to set its rotation to be the same as the hand's rotation. And with that, you should be able to pick up weapons. Just set up a scene with the guns laying around, and when you run the game, you should be able to pick them up with no problems. The one issue is that you can only hold one weapon at a time. If you want to have an inventory of weapons with interchangeable weapon slots that you can switch between, you'll have to modify the code a bit. So make sure you subscribe because that's what we'll be covering the next time we revisit this subject. Thanks for watching. If you're curious about my computer setup, check out the links below. Also, follow me on Twitter, join the Discord, like, subscribe, vaporize the bell, and as always, have a nice day.